Technology. Technology has come so far over the last 30 years. In the 90s, the internet was created. We were introduced to a medium that has allowed us to access all sorts of information just with the click of a button. In 2004, Facebook was founded and our social lives gradually expanded past meeting people face to face. Then came 2007, the smartphone era. Phones started to have the capability of doing functions that computers can. Finally, since 2022, we are now living in a generative AI era. Starting in late 2022, when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, they achieved 1 million users within 5 days. And since then, GenAI has evolved from being a new, up-and-coming technology to a tool used by many in different ways. In the field of education, many students are adopting GenAI as a tool to assist them in their day-to-day lives. A study conducted in the US reported that 64% of teens uses AI chatbots. The same research also showed that 3 out of 10 teens surveyed use GenAI at least once a day. A similar study in the UK, specifically researching higher education students, found that 88% of students do use AI in their assessments. As such, we are currently living through the largest cognitive migration in human history. A study by Cosmina et al. In 2025 studied cognitive engagement and cognitive load of students when presented with writing tasks. There were 3 separate groups. One group was allowed to use LLMs to assist with the task, another using search engines, and the last group only purely using their brains. After 3 sessions of writing tasks with the tools afforded to them, all the students in the LLM group and the brain-only group were asked to swap tools. The results showed that the LLM to brain group showed weaker neural connectivity and weaker memory recall, whilst the brain to LLM group showed higher neural connectivity and stronger recall. All this to show that reliance on AI when doing work points to students literally offloading their thinking process to AI, allowing their brains to work less. Right? The future does look grim for our students now that AI is so prevalent in society. Students think less, relying on machines to answer questions. But before putting the nail in the coffin, we have to ask ourselves an important question. Are we confusing content with understanding? If we assume that a student's level of understanding lies in the perfectness of their sentences or their ability to comprehend texts that are complex, perhaps we ought to relook at how we understand understanding. What if for many of our students, AI isn't used as a shortcut to completing assignments, but a tool to access and comprehend knowledge, as well as to eloquently present their understanding? Meet Ruth, a high school student learning about industrialization in her social studies class. Her teacher assigned her a primary source, an 1832 testimony on child labor in British factories. Words such as remonstrance and vituperation stumps her, preventing her from understanding. Ruth is an incredibly bright child, but the language used in the text might be a wall. For her, the issue isn't about the history, it's about decoding a text that she might be unfamiliar with. If Ruth quits here, it's not that she has failed to think, it is simply that she has failed to translate. Ruth uses AI as a bridge. Once the language jargon is cleared, she discovers a contradiction in the source provided and proceeds to spend the next hour drafting and writing her essay regarding the source. Ruth didn't outsource her thinking to AI. On the contrary, she used AI to unlock the data so that her thinking could actually start. Now consider Leo. Leo understands the environmental impact of the Industrial Revolution better than anyone in his class. However, Leo has dysgraphia, a neurological condition that prevents him from writing coherently. When he tries to write, his thoughts move at 100 kilometers per hour, while his hand moves at a significantly slower pace. In the past, Leo would submit an essay that's not quite complete and receive maybe a passing grade. Today, Leo feeds his raw notes and messy thoughts into an AI and tells it, "Help me structure these thoughts into a narrative flow." Leo would then edit and reject word choices. He is editing and reordering the AI's logic to better match his own. For Ruth and Leo, AI isn't a way to avoid the work. It is a way to access the work. So where does that leave us as educators now? If we want to prevent AI from becoming a crutch, we will have to change the way we measure the walk. When an educator views AI only as a threat, they inadvertently encourage cognitive offload. But when they treat it as a scaffold, they transform the classroom. A crutch is used to avoid weight. It carries the student across the finish line and doesn't require them to process. But a tool requires the user to have a destination in mind. It requires intent. Forward-thinking educators are already accounting for AI. They aren't just grading the final essay anymore. They are grading the process. They ask to see the paper trail. These include the record of how a student prompted and uses the machine. The goal of education has never been to produce a finished paper. It has always been to produce a finished thinker. AI hasn't changed that mission. It has merely raised the stakes.